Some places are easy to leave. You check in, spend a night, and continue your journey without ever thinking about them again. But there are places that quietly hold on to the people who enter. Buildings that exist between destinations, where time feels slower and memories begin to blur. Tonight's story begins with a traveler who arrived at a hotel he never planned to visit, carrying no luggage and no clear memory of how he got there. At first, everything appeared ordinary. A quiet lobby, soft lighting, and an elevator waiting patiently for its next guest. But some floors are not meant to be reached, and some doors open only once. Welcome back to After Our Story. This is Hotel Zero Floor. Welcome back to After Our Story, where the lights stay on, but the world feels different after midnight. Tonight's story is not just about fear, but about places that should not exist, and people who realize too late that leaving was never an option. Turn down the lights, get comfortable, and step carefully, because some stories do not end when the video does. The traveler arrived during the quietest hour of the night, the moment when streets fall silent and buildings seem to exist outside ordinary time. He did not remember choosing this destination, or how long he had been walking before the hotel appeared in front of him. Its tall windows glowed warmly against the darkness, inviting yet strangely distant, like a place remembered rather than discovered. Something about the building felt prepared for him, as if his arrival had been expected long before he reached the entrance. As he stepped inside, the world behind him seemed to disappear. The lobby stretched wide and perfectly symmetrical, illuminated by soft golden lighting that revealed polished floors and carefully arranged furniture untouched by human presence. No staff greeted him, no sound echoed through the space. Yet the silence did not feel empty. It felt aware. The traveler slowed his steps, realizing he could no longer recall why he had come here in the first place, only that leaving immediately no longer felt possible. The lobby remained perfectly still as he walked deeper into the building. Every chair stood aligned, every lamp illuminated at identical brightness, as though the environment had been frozen at a precise moment. He listened carefully, expecting distant footsteps or conversation, yet even his own movements sounded muted, absorbed by the space around him. The longer he stood there, the more it felt as though the hotel itself was observing him, waiting for him to understand something unspoken. Behind him, the entrance doors closed slowly, without any visible movement. He turned instinctively, expecting to see the street outside, but the glass reflected only the interior of the lobby. There was no sign of the world he came from. The realization settled quietly in his chest. He had crossed a boundary without noticing when it happened. The hotel no longer felt like a temporary stop. It felt permanent. A soft bell sound echoed from the reception desk, though no one had touched it. When the traveler looked up, a receptionist stood behind the counter as if she had always been there. Her posture was perfectly composed, her expression calm and unreadable. Without asking questions, she placed a room key on the counter with quiet precision. She did not request identification, payment, or confirmation. It was as if the process had already been completed long before he arrived. The key carried a heavy metal tag engraved with a single number. She informed him that his room was ready and that the elevator would guide him. Her voice sounded practiced, almost mechanical, repeating words spoken countless times before. When he glanced back toward the entrance, he noticed there were no visible exit doors anymore. And when he turned again to ask a question, the receptionist had vanished, leaving only the key resting on the polished surface beneath the warm light. The elevator doors opened before he pressed anything, revealing an interior that perfectly matched the elegance of the lobby, yet felt subtly older. Soft overhead lights reflected across polished metal walls and brass trim, creating a distorted mirror image that lagged slightly behind his movements. He stepped inside, and the doors closed immediately, without sound. The control panel displayed familiar floor numbers, but something felt incomplete, as if one destination remained hidden. As he reached toward the buttons, a new number illuminated at the bottom of the panel, 0. He was certain it had not been there moments ago. The elevator began descending on its own, moving smoothly past every listed floor and continuing downward even after the numbers ended. The air grew heavier, quieter, until the movement finally stopped. When the doors opened again, the hallway beyond looked older than the rest of the hotel, darker, yet undeniably part of the same building, waiting in complete silence for him to step forward. The hallway waiting beyond the elevator felt older than the lobby above, as if this part of the hotel had existed long before the rest was built around it. The lighting shifted from warm gold to a softer, fading glow that barely reached the carpeted floor. Every door along the corridor looked identical. Same number plates, same handles, same perfect spacing, repeating endlessly into the distance. The traveler stepped forward slowly, his footsteps strangely muted, swallowed by the thick silence surrounding him. As he walked, a faint sensation followed him, the unmistakable feeling of being watched without seeing anyone present. None of the doors opened, yet subtle sounds seemed to leak through the walls. Distant breathing, the quiet movement of furniture, something shifting just out of sight. He paused halfway down the corridor when he realized something unsettling. The hallway behind him no longer looked the same length as before. The elevator doors had already disappeared into shadow, leaving only more identical doors stretching endlessly in both directions. For the first time since entering the hotel, uncertainty turned into fear. The building was no longer guiding him. It was enclosing him. As he moved deeper into the corridor, the silence no longer felt empty. It felt occupied. The traveler slowed his steps when he heard a faint click somewhere ahead, like a door gently closing. He stopped and listened, expecting footsteps or voices, but the sound never repeated. The hallway returned to stillness, leaving only the soft hum of distant electricity lingering in the air. One door stood slightly open as he approached. Darkness filled the room beyond, too deep for the dim hallway lights to reach. He paused beside it, sensing movement inside without seeing anyone clearly. The door shifted, almost imperceptibly, reacting as if aware of his presence. A chill ran through him, and he continued walking without looking back. Moments later, curiosity forced him to turn around, but the door was now fully closed, silent and unmoving, as though it had never opened at all. The traveler continued down the corridor, trying to ignore the growing pressure in his chest. Every step felt heavier, as if the hallway itself resisted his movement. The identical doors lining both sides began to feel less like entrances to rooms and more like silent observers. As he passed one door, he heard a faint sound behind it, a slow shift, followed by what sounded like breathing. Then another sound came from the opposite side, then another. One by one, subtle noises emerged from behind multiple doors, never loud enough to confirm, but impossible to dismiss. He stopped walking when he realized something even stranger. The door handles beside him were no longer perfectly still. Several of them moved slightly, turning just enough to suggest someone was holding them from the other side. None opened. None revealed who stood behind them. Yet the feeling was unmistakable. Whatever occupied those rooms knew he was there. The traveler resumed walking, faster now, resisting the urge to run, while the faint sounds followed his movement down the hall. Behind every door, something waited patiently, not trying to escape, but listening as he passed. The corridor finally opened into a wider intersection, where the carpet pattern changed and the ceiling lights flickered slightly, breaking the perfect repetition of the hallway behind him. Mounted on the wall ahead was a small metallic directory sign, aged and slightly tilted. The traveler stepped closer, relieved to see something familiar. A floor guide meant to help guests navigate the hotel. Several floors were listed clearly, each connected to amenities and room numbers. But at the very bottom of the sign, beneath all other levels, was a number engraved differently from the rest. 0. The engraving looked older, almost scratched into the metal long after the directory had been installed. There were no arrows pointing to it, no listed rooms, no description, just the number alone. As he stared at it, the overhead lights dimmed briefly, and for a moment he thought he heard distant elevator chimes echoing through the walls. A quiet realization formed in his mind. This floor was never meant for guests to find intentionally. It was not advertised, not guided, not explained, and yet somehow, without choosing it, he had already arrived there. At the end of the corridor, one door stood slightly different from the others, positioned directly beneath a dim overhead light that flickered with uneven rhythm. The traveler slowed as he approached, recognizing the number engraved on the metal plate, the same number attached to the key given at the reception desk. A quiet unease settled over him as he realized he had never chosen a direction, never searched for the room, yet somehow the hallway had guided him here. The air felt heavier near the door, colder than the rest of the floor, as if something on the other side had been waiting long before his arrival. When he reached out, the handle turned easily beneath his hand, and the door opened just enough to reveal darkness inside, inviting him to enter a space that already seemed to know him. The room looked perfectly prepared, as if someone had finished arranging it moments before he arrived. Warm lamps illuminated neatly placed furniture, a suitcase rested beside the bed, and clothes hung inside the closet, as though belonging to him already. Nothing appeared abandoned or dusty. Everything felt recently used, quietly lived in. The traveler stepped inside cautiously, noticing that even the faint scent in the air felt familiar, triggering memories he could not fully recall. When he turned back toward the hallway, the door closed slowly behind him without a sound. For a brief moment, the room felt safe compared to the unsettling corridor outside, until he noticed a framed photograph on the desk showing the same room from the exact same angle, except someone was sitting on the bed. The figure's face was unclear, but the posture matched his own perfectly, as if the room had already recorded his presence before he entered. Uneasy but exhausted, the traveler moved toward the window, hoping to see the outside world and reassure himself that the hotel was still connected to reality. He pulled the curtain aside and froze. Beyond the glass was no street, no city lights, no passing cars, only another hallway, identical to the one outside his room, stretching endlessly under dim lamps. Confused, he stepped closer, pressing his hand against the cold surface, realizing he was not looking out of the building, but deeper into it. A faint movement appeared at the far end of the corridor beyond the window, a distant silhouette standing completely still, facing toward him. The figure did not approach, did not react, yet the traveler felt certain it was aware of him watching. When he stepped back, the lights outside flickered once, and the figure vanished, leaving only the silent corridor reflected back at him, confirming a terrifying truth. The room was not a refuge. It was another part of the floor. The silence inside the room returned slowly after the figure disappeared from the window, heavy and unnatural. Just as the traveler began to calm himself, a telephone on the bedside table rang sharply, breaking the stillness. He stared at it for a moment, certain he had not noticed any phone earlier. The ringing continued, steady and patient, as if it would never stop until answered. Hesitantly, he lifted the receiver. A calm voice greeted him from the other end, the receptionist. She welcomed him again and asked politely if his stay was comfortable so far. Before he could respond, she added one final sentence in the same gentle tone. Please remain in your room. The residents become active after midnight. The line went dead immediately. At that exact moment, faint footsteps began moving in the hallway outside his door, slow and synchronized, stopping directly in front of his room. If you enjoy psychological horror stories and late-night mysteries like this one, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. New stories arrive after hours, when silence feels louder and imagination becomes something else entirely. You've just listened to another story from After Hours Story. If something in tonight's episode felt unsettling, that might be because some places stay with you long after you leave. Thank you for watching, and remember, not every door should be opened after midnight. I'll see you in the next story.